In this example, I've created a method called printVal. The printVal method accepts a single argument, an object. Technically, every single class that you create in C# is an object. That's the base class upon which all reference types are built. One of the methods that's fairly common for object classes is a method called toString. What toString does is it extracts the string equivalent or string representation of that particular object. So what I'm doing in this method is I'm passing in an object, and then I'm extracting the string representation of that object and printing that out to the console. Let's take a look at how this printVal method is actually being called. In this first call, I'm passing in the value of 100. Now, technically, that's an integer. If I pass the integer value into printVal, and printVal expects an object, it must be implicitly boxing that integer to an object in order to make the call work. So this call here actually represents an implicit box. I'm giving it an integer when it's actually expecting an object. In the second example, I'm doing an explicit box. Because what I want to do is take this integer value, 200, and pass that in where an object is expected, I use the object keyword in parentheses to cast that integer to an object. So that syntax should look familiar. That's exactly the same way that we did simple value casting when we were working with value types. So I have a variable here that's defined as an object, object x, equals the object cast of the integer value 200. Then I can go ahead and pass the x, which actually is an object, to the method printVal. In the second example here, I'm creating another method that expects an object, but this method does some mathematical manipulation. I can't take an object and add one to it. It has to be a value in order for me to physically manipulate that mathematically. So what I need to do is to unbox this object back to its base value. In this case, I've done an explicit unboxing, taking the object and converting that into an integer. Once I have that integer, I should be able to add 1 to that integer value. And then we're going to print that result out to the screen. So what I should get in my output is 100 for the first print, 200 for the second print, and then 201 for the explicit unbox. Let's execute this and see what we get as a result. So it looks like everything is coming out the way that we expect. We have the values 100, 200, and 201 exactly as anticipated. But what if, when we did this explicit unbox, this data type, int, wasn't really valid for the contained value inside the object? Let's go back to this explicit box and change that value from 200 to 200.1. This technically is no longer an integer value. So I can still box this and pass this into the add1 method as an object, but when I unbox it, can I unbox it to an integer? Let's execute this and see what we get. Now what you'll notice is that the build happened just fine, and we actually started getting some results here in the background. But as soon as it tried to unbox that value, 200.1, as an integer, it raised an invalid cast exception. So we either need to deal with the exception, or we need to go back and make sure that we're not unboxing the value inappropriately.